welcome back to part 2 of this very special live episode of the Transfer Talk podcast. We're going to rewind the clock a little bit now and talk a bit more about Eidur Gudjohnsen and Jimmy Floyd Hasselbaink's very own transfer tales. And I think there is only one place to start, and that is the year 2000, when Chelsea came calling for you both. Jimmy, we'll start with you. Just give us an insight into exactly how that came about.
I got a call, actually. We were at the time I was at Atletico Madrid. We were in a Copa del Rey final, and we were on the way to the final, and I got a call from Gianluca Vialli. And he had a few words with me about me joining Chelsea. We, at Atletico, we already went down, but we were still in the final of the Copa del Rey, and he just wanted to have like 5 minutes with me if I would be interested and all that kind of stuff. So my eyes light up, and it was a great call, and we decided to me just to play the game and enjoy the game, and after the game to speak again and see what could materialize.
Hold on. You're on your way to the Copa del Rey final in the team coach, and Vialli's calling you.
I was in the team coach. He obviously didn't know that I was in the team coach. It was 2 days before the final. We had the final at the Valencia Stadium. We drove 2 days before the game. We drove towards Valencia, and I got a call from Gianluca. Yeah.
After the disappointment of seeing Atletico Madrid relegated and missing out on a place in the Holland squad for Euro 2000, Hasselbaink is said to be delighted to be back in English football.
Did you know straight away that it was a move that you wanted to make? Were there any other clubs in the running for you at the time?
There were other clubs, but it was a move that I definitely straight away wanted to make.
Who else?
The year before. Oh. The year before, when I was at Leeds, Chelsea showed some interest already, but Leeds didn't want to sell me to an English club. We tried everything, me and my agent, to make the move go through to Chelsea, but it didn't happen. So Chris Sutton then went instead, and then the deal was dead, and I went to Atletico Madrid.
And Eidur, what about yourself? What's your memories of? Was it a similar situation, just one call and you were gone?
Well, similar in a sense that I got the phone call from Luca Vialli. Sort of my agent rang me up and he said, "Listen, the interest of Chelsea is actually quite big. Luca wants to sign you. He wants to speak to you. So it's not just the club looking at." I was only 21, I think. When I joined Chelsea, I said, "The manager wants to speak to you." And I said, "Luca Vialli's going to call me." "Yeah, just stay by your phone." As I did. When he rang, he started with this, is it okay to say sexy Italian voice? I was going, "Oh dear, your hat beard, hello." That was it. No, but he sort of explained, he said, "Listen, I've actually seen a lot of your games from last season, both live and on tape. And I think you can do whatever you're doing in the Championship, as we call it now, you can do that in the Premier League as well." He didn't know that he played a European Cup final against my dad when Vialli played for Sampdoria. My father played for Anderlecht in Belgium. So they played against each other in the European Cup final in 1992. If I'm not mistaken. And they swapped shirts because I'd asked my father to get me a Vialli shirt from that game. So it didn't take much persuading. Plus the fact that we had Bolton at the time, we didn't manage to get promoted. We had a good team, great club, lovely people, but Chelsea was just a different level to that.
And did you have other options at the time?
I had many.
Yeah.
Probably because of my age as well. I was young, so there'd been a lot of clubs interested, and back in the day we didn't have a transfer window, so I was being linked here and there, and managers coming to watch games, and I actually initially thought I would be moving to Liverpool because I think Gerard Houllier showed a lot of interest. He'd been at a lot of our games at the Reebok, as we called it back then. So that was sort of the one before Chelsea came in. When Luca called, that was it.
Yeah, we mentioned that lure of the manager when we're talking a little about Jose Mourinho. So it was a similar situation for you, Eidur, with him.
Yeah, and plus the fact that my career started off. I'm going to Holland, and I broke my leg, and I was told by doctors, "You're never going to play at a high level again. You might as well, concentrate on your on your education." Managed to, fight back, and 2 seasons at Bolton Wanderers where I showed, the talents that I had, and fighting through it, and then making that step. As in, it was not only joining Chelsea; it was just, showing the finger to those doctors that had said I'd never play at that level. So it was just a huge moment for me, all in all.
You both speak about how highly you speak of Gianluca Vialli and the fact that he's called you personally, and that must have been a massive factor why you joined Chelsea. But within 3 months of you joining Chelsea, Vialli's gone and Claudio Ranieri's come in. What's going through your mind then?
Don't forget, Gianluca was a magnificent striker, So for him to call you and wanting you to come to the club that he's managing, that is massive.
I was still wearing a shirt when he called me.
But then after 3 months, that happening, it was a blow. It was a big blow, and also a big surprise. We didn't expect that at all in the group. We thought definitely that he was well backed by the club as well, So that's the impression that we got. So when we found out that he was gone, it was for me personally.
Do you remember how you found out?
No.
I called you.
Oh, okay.
Did you? Seriously.
Okay.
So how did you find out?
I actually followed football news. Jimmy was out shopping. I remember seeing it, hearing it. Yeah, we were still living in the hotel, or you were just about to move to Wimbledon.
Okay. Yeah.
And I saw it. And what's going on? Results hadn't gone great. Start of the season. I saw it. Rang up my best pal. Seen the news. We couldn't believe it because we still are in the phase of we've only just arrived, and especially it was different for Jimmy because Jimmy arrived as a star, the main striker. I was sort of an addition, like we need 3-4 strikers. Luca always wanted 4 strikers, 3 or 4 strikers, and it was at the time it was Jimmy, Gianfranco Zola was there, Torre Andre Flo, and then he wanted to sign me as well. He did say to me, Luca, when he called, I don't think Gianfranco will be here next season, so there will be 3 of you. But for whatever reason, I don't know.
The following season, I mean, we talk about iconic strike partnerships when teams used to play with 2 strikers. Of course, a lot has changed now, York and Cole, but Gudjohnsen and Hasselbaink was up there. That first full season under Ranieri, it was 52 goals. 52 goals between you. Why did it work? What was your secret?
I think the main thing was we wanted each other to do well. I think if he would score, I would be so happy, for him, and I think vice versa as well. And it just combined. I also knew where he was, on the pitch. I just knew, he's going to do this, and I'm going to make my run. He will find me. We didn't really work on it on training, It's just that. It was just that connection. Don't get me wrong. Gianfranco was a magnificent football player, technically. absolutely magnificent. But the connection was not as well as us, you know. So
we were just we were probably if you talk about two forwards, two strikers, we were complete opposites.
Yeah, also.
We were as different as we look.
Aren't we not brothers?
But together.
From different mothers? Are we not brothers from different mothers?
Oh, exactly. No, but and as Jimmy said, when I received the ball, I knew where he was going to run. Or when the ball was being played to me, depending on the pace of the pass, he knew when I was going to step over it and run away from it. It was just, and we, of course, in training, as soon as we started playing more together, we exaggerated in training, so we probably became even better at it. But to say that we actually worked on, no, it was.
You mentioned Zola there, one of the greatest players in Premier League history, one of the greatest players in Chelsea's history. So what was he doing while you two were making hay?
Sulking. But the thing is, that's what players do, and we understood that, and we would go to him and we would hug him because we would love him, and we would understand that he was sulking, and and we would appreciate that, you know, and he would appreciate that from us, that we wanted him to be part of it, you know. We couldn't do nothing about it, that it just worked really well for us, you know, and he understood that as well, as hard as it was for him, because he wanted to play. And after games sometimes when he didn't come in, he left home angry, you know, but that's the professional in him. You wouldn't want it any different. It was at times hard for
Yeah, I didn't mind so much. No, because, and this is, being serious, this is different. Your situation, you're the main striker at Chelsea. You were bought to be the main goal scorer, so you're always going to play. So there's one spot left because we played with two forwards, and I wanted to play, so it's part of the game. But what I had to deal with as well is, right, I'm playing in front of what is arguably the best player, best footballer in Chelsea's history, and he's sitting on the bench because I'm playing. So I must be doing something right, or we must be doing something right. But I had such admiration for him as well that we often spoke about why can't we find a way? Why can't the manager find a way to play all three of us?
And don't get us wrong, we used to go out for dinners and stuff with like us two, Gianfranco, Robbie Di Matteo.
Gianfranco on another table.
No. We were
right, so all together.
We were tight. We were tight. You know, we were. You know, there was no.
We used to play cards against.
We used to cards
with Franco and Dennis
always,
Wise.
Yeah, we were always like in the same group. He was suffering when the game was being played, you know, because he just wanted to play. It just didn't work out.
What about the following campaign? Chelsea securing Champions League qualification, beating Liverpool on the last day of the season. Take us back to that moment. What did it mean to the team? How did it feel?
It was a massive match, wasn't it? We needed a draw or a win. I think we were losing 1-0 first, weren't we? Sami Hyypiä scored, and we were like, oh my God, what is happening? We were actually the better team, and the emotions of it, you know, were sky high. Massa Desai came up with a goal, and he never scores. You know? No, he never scores.
He never got over the halfway.
No. But at the end, did we win 2-1 or
2-1?
We won 2-1. Yeah. Jesper Gronke. Yeah. Bless rest Jesper Gronke. Yes.
Do you remember the meeting we had in the dressing room before that game?
He doesn't remember
anything.
You remember apparently a lot more than I do. Go on.
So, Trevor Birch. Do you remember Trevor Birch?
Yes.
That's a good start.
He was, for those who won't know, he was the chief executive at the time.
Chief executive at the time. He came into the dressing room before that game.
I remember now. Yeah.
And he's and he literally tells us, right, just to make you realise the importance of this game for Chelsea Football Club. We don't win today, or don't get the Champions League place, we're in deep basically, he said. And we will have to sell off half this squad, and Chelsea will not be the club that it has been for many, many years, unless something big happens.
You mentioned unless something big happens. That summer, the footballing landscape, let's be honest, changed completely. Roman Abramovich takes over the club.
But it was still dependent on that.
He would buy it if you got
result
Champions League.
against Liverpool. So
we don't know if he would have bought it if we were not in the Champions League.
Goodness, what was going through your mind when he came in? Were you given any forewarning about this guy and what impact he would have?
No, we were told that somebody bought the club. I remember that Ranieri said to me, and he wants to become the champion, you know, and crazy things are going to happen. We're going to buy players and stuff. This was before he had the chat with us about staying or going. I didn't know personally things about Abramovich. Only knew that he was Russian and wealthy. And then we were at the time still at Harlington. The first training session, or one of the first training sessions, he came to Harlington and he spoke to us with a few others, and that was it, you know.
It made us realise that, right, we're under pressure every game now for a result, because they'll just buy whoever they can, and will buy players just to, as in buy the league, the Premier League title, so to speak. I know it's not for sale, but that was the pressure that we felt at the time. So the uncertainty plus this added pressure of the owner always being around us as well, not always speaking, but just being with the team, you could feel, you sense that
extra pressure.
Extra pressure, yeah.
And you mentioned bringing in players, Adrian Mutu, Hernan Crespo among the players that arrived that summer. Did that add extra pressure? How did you feel? Did you ever feel like your positions were under threat at the club?
Well, the season started off with Ranieri. Well, at least speaking to me, I don't know what he said to you. He said
speaking to me too, but
he said,
I think we had the same conversation.
Yeah, he basically said it's going to be very difficult for you, Eidur, to get games to play. We've got at least 2 strikers coming in, and I'll help you find a good club.
Not a word of a lie.
And I said to him, no problem, boss. I think I'll be here longer than you will.
Said that to him.
Wasn't lying.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. He did say the same things to me. He did say, look, Jim, because obviously I knew him a little bit longer than Eidur from Atletico Madrid. He said, Jim, I'm going to bring in 2 strikers, and it's going to be very difficult for you to play. And as stubborn as I am, if you want to make it in football at the highest level, you have to be single-minded, and you have to be really believing in yourself, what you can do, what you can bring. And I said to him, look, mister, because we used to call him mister, you can bring whoever you want. I am going to end up playing. So do what you need to do, and I'll be fine, you know? So he said, okay, fine. And he brought in Mutu, he brought in Crespo, and I remember Eidur and me looking at each other and thinking, yeah, it's going to be difficult, but, you know, at the end, I think we're going to win the battle. And we won the battle because he ended up playing the two strikers that always done it for him, you know, in his most important matches.
Towards the end of the season.
Towards the end, you know. And I think in that year I became top scorer as well, and I was not supposed to play. So here you go.
The first Premier League game, it sticks in my memory, that under Roman Abramovich, you went to Anfield, there was a big hoo-ha about this is the new Chelsea. You actually scored the winning goal at Anfield that day. Now, I'm sure you would have celebrated long and hard when you scored that goal, but was there an extra edge to your celebration that day because you were effectively being written off?
Darmish. There was no extra. It was just words can't express, because the amount of things that Ranieri has asked me to do for him, and I always done that, and him to say that to me like how he said it, you know, made me really, really, really angry. And then at that match as well, not playing me and putting me on the bench, made me even angrier. So for me to come in and scoring the winner, you know, that was... I'm not going to say it.
I started that game.
You started that game, yeah.
I came off at half-time as well.
Yes. You know? But what you have to understand, in the beginning when he had a lot of credit and had his new players, we were the scapegoats. You got me? And it was okay for Mutu in the beginning because he started quite well, but it was very hard for Crespo, and it didn't work out for Crespo at all in the first few, well, the whole season actually. Yeah. You know, it didn't work out. So he had to come back to one of us. He had to, you know. So he went first to Eidur, and the combination with Mutu did not really work because Mutu was more about Mutu, you know. So, and Mutu became a problem. So we ended up getting a chance, and we started scoring and started playing well, and he had to come back to us and eat humble pie.
Yeah. And of course, throughout the season, there was this speculation over Claudio Ranieri's future. From inside, was there an expectation that he would be gone? I mean, clearly, Eidur, you had an idea he wasn't going to last too long.
Well, I think the only thing that could have saved him was winning the league. We came second,
yeah.
And not even being second was...
I think the match against Monaco had done him.
Yeah, Champions League.
Yeah, that match, putting me in on the right wing, you know, going for the match while we didn't really need it.
Yeah, we'd already scored an away goal as well.
Yeah, so I think that was the match that made people speak to Abramovich, people around him who understood football, and said, you know, the mistakes.
And of course, Jose Mourinho comes in as Ranieri's replacement. I think it was just days after he'd won the Champions League with Porto. We have spoken a little bit about Mourinho already, but do you remember what your very first impressions were of him?
Well, he worked with him. I didn't. I got the call from Peter Kenyon. My agent got the call from Peter Kenyon and said, we're going to let Jimmy go. I still had got one year. And I left. I went to Middlesbrough. I never spoke to Jose.
So you didn't even meet him when he came in? No,
never met him. It was after that he said that he made a mistake. He should have kept me. But he brought in Drogba and Kessman. Obviously, Drogba was a magnificent signing and a great signing for the club. But I still feel that I could have added, you know, to the team, especially if I see Kessman, you know, who didn't really do it. But it wasn't meant to be, so, yeah.
How did that make you feel when you're getting a call from the chief executive of the football club saying you've got no future and you haven't even met the manager?
But that's how it is in football. When the club wants you, the manager calls you. When the club doesn't want you, the chief executive calls you. So, you know, That's just how it is, you know.
I always recall that the first news conference Jose Mourinho did. I'm sure you watched it at the time, I'm sure.
Please don't call me arrogant, because what I'm saying is true. I'm European champion, so I'm not one of the bottle. I think I'm a special one.
What are you thinking when you're watching that?
We had heard so many rumours and stories that at one point we all thought we'd had to turn up with a suit to training. That's how bizarre the stories were about this guy. We didn't know what to expect. And we saw him, and it was like everyone else, right? Good-looking guy, well-spoken, did the press conference in just about any language they wanted. And he had something about him that everyone else noticed as well. He cocky, yes, but self-confident.
We should not be afraid to say we want to win. We shouldn't defend ourselves from the outside pressure, saying that we are only waiting for success in my last year of contract. I don't want this kind of self-protection.
And we thought, right, you know, as players, we don't take too much notice of press conferences. It's all about the first impression on the training pitch. And I always remember the first phone call I got from Peter Kenyon saying, right, Eidur, we have a new manager and he wants to speak to you right now. So, okay, I think I was in Iceland. I was sitting with a friend, having a beer, as we do on holiday. And Jose starts talking, hey, it's your new manager, you know, watched many games, watched you last season, scouted you because we actually thought we were going to play you in the Champions League final. Any doubts that you have about next year, if there's any doubt, I'll tell you right now, you will be at Chelsea next year and you're going to play. I just need you at your best. Brilliant, thanks. See you 4th of July, he said. That's when pre-season started. So I got the beer. Don't want that anymore. And that's how much I thought, right.
Instant.
This is what I need. This is what I needed from a manager. I never had it from Ranieri. I always had to fight out. I mean, everyone has to fight for their place. But I always had to fight that little bit extra, that little bit extra. And it always seemed to me that a striker that came from the Italian league was much more attractive to him than an Icelandic kid that he sort of inherited in the squad. And this was the first time that I felt, right, this guy really believes in me. Let's be ready. And in the first team meeting, we all looked at each other and said, we're going to win the league.
Yeah.
Mourinho spoke for half an hour, 45 minutes. And we thought, yeah, we're going to win the league this year.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, lost just once on the way to winning the Premier League. And I guess you've already alluded to it there, but, I mean, what did Mourinho do? What was it about him? I mean, he obviously just clearly came in and set the tone straight away, and you all really bought into it.
Well, he did, just by being himself, the way he worked on the training ground, the way he detailed trainings, the way he prepared the team for games, for friendly games, for everything. In pre-season, we went to America, and I think we all got a sort of a booklet on the Mourinho way that we had to read through. And then we landed in America. He goes, I've watched you guys, all of you, play a lot. I've seen many games, and I've seen your statistics on paper, and I know you named all of us. I don't see any trophies behind your names. Why is that? Well, why is that? This is going to change. And he had such a way of speaking that I believed him from the first second, as we all did. We believed what he was saying, and we bought into his methods of working as well.
Why is it, though, with Mourinho, he seems to have 3 or 4 seasons with the club, and it seems to follow a pattern. It goes great at the beginning, and then something happens, it tails off, and then as soon as he's come in, he's gone again.
Well, he's very demanding of his players, and I suppose you could say you can get tired of it. Always wants more, which is probably what makes him the manager that he is. The impact is clearly there, and there's a pattern of the impact wherever he goes. Usually in his first season, he wins the league. So I don't know whether the group as players just grow tired of his methods or his way of working, I don't know, or him changing as well, as in demanding even more and more and more until you've sort of, you've squeezed all the lemon out of the...
Go on. Lemon out of the...
Yeah, I know what you
The
mean.
juice out of the lemon, there we go. Yeah.
You all got it.
You were there for 2 years under Jose.
Yeah.
So can you explain why you left, how you left, whose decision it was?
It was both of our decisions. My last season at Chelsea, which is my worst season, I didn't play much. I'd played the season before. I think it was only Frank Lampard who played more games than me when we won the league. And in the second part of that season, Jose played me in midfield, so it was Makelele, Frank, and then me in midfield with Didier up top. And if Didier was injured, I would move into the striker role, but mainly. And I had a conversation towards the end of the season with Mourinho, and I said, am I a striker now or midfielder? But he said, you're whatever I need you to be. All right.
That was the worst thing you had to do.
Then I realised when I came back after that pre-season, because Didier was obviously becoming one of the best strikers in the league. He didn't have a great first season at Chelsea, but scored goals, and you could see the powerhouse that he was. Crespo came back, and then I thought, right, I'm not much of a striker. I don't think I'll be playing much as striker this season. Started in midfield, and then we had Thiago. I think we had Thiago still. Oh, Thiago might have left. Essien came in, and then I thought, right, he's a natural midfielder with more defensive, let's say, energy than I had. Just a pure midfielder, which I was sort of a converted midfielder, and Frank was never going to be dropped. So I thought, wow, this is actually going to be tough, and it's probably going to be my last season. And it just, at that stage, I thought, oh, here we go again. I have to do the whole Ranieri thing again, where I have to always fight for those minutes, always fight for the games. And I think I grew tired of it. And 6 years, it was just, towards the end of the season, basically, Mourinho came up to me, and I went up to see him, and I said, what should we do? We know, don't we? He said, yeah, we know. He said, I will never tell you to go, but we know the situation. That was it.
Well, you say that was it, and then the next stop is Barcelona. Ronaldinho, Lionel Messi. How does that come about? You just said you've had your worst season at Chelsea, and now you're joining the European champions.
I know.
It's easy. I had very big clubs interested in me, but when Barcelona shows their interest, it's not possible to say no.
There was an interest from Barcelona the year before, and there was absolutely no chance of Chelsea selling me. And when it came up, I could hardly, I could believe it, because I do have belief in myself, but it was a bit in contrast with the season that I had. But when I spoke to Rijkaard, he said, yeah, I know you had an indifferent season, don't mind. I saw the quality. I've seen your quality for years. We played against them as well in the Champions League, and we're probably one of the most memorable games in Champions League in Chelsea's history was against them. And he basically persuaded me to go to to come to Barcelona. I knew then right. And that's when I knew before. Samuel Eto'o, Ronaldinho, Iniesta, Xavi, you name them. All right, here I'm really going to have to fight for the minutes that I get. But I could never live with myself turning down a club like Barcelona. So that's the decision I made. I did end up playing over 100 games for them.
Yeah.
So.
And Jimmy, you could also have joined Barcelona at one point.
Yes.
Just tell us what happened there.
Oh, a little bit unlucky for me. It was when Trevor Birch just came in. It was in January, I think. January 2003, I think. Louis van Gaal was at Barcelona. I got the call. He wanted another striker. Everything was agreed. The fee was agreed and the contract was agreed. And I remember that Ranieri came to me and we were on our way to play Man United. He asked me, do you want to play? Because obviously the transfer, I said, no, I play, I want to play, you know. I started and then Phil Neville kicked me. And I had to come off with a swollen ankle. Nothing bad, but I had to come off. Deal was still going to go ahead. Barcelona, that evening, Barcelona was playing Valencia at Barcelona. And I think Mendieta scored a worldie and Valencia won against Barcelona. And Van Gaal got sacked that night. Van Gaal got sacked that night. And it didn't go through. You know, but that is football, isn't it? Somebody else came in and he thought that he needed something else for the team and the deal was off.
I mean, that must be just so frustrating.
Well, it is. Look, I've had 4 magnificent years at Chelsea. But as Eidur just said, you want to measure yourself with the best. And you know, to have been able to have played for Barcelona would have been great. Look, I loved my time at Chelsea, you know. I didn't ask for a transfer. They needed the money at the time for me because they were in trouble. And it was a win for the club and a win-win situation, you know. So, but it wasn't meant to be.
I know you've touched on this before, but you talk about playing under Jose at Chelsea, Pep Guardiola as well at Barcelona. They obviously played against each other today. You said Jose was the best one you played under. What gave him the edge over?
I think because of the relationship that I had with him. It's impossible for me to say that Mourinho is a better manager than Guardiola, or vice versa. I wouldn't say Guardiola is better. I couldn't. It was just the chemistry between me and Jose rather than between me and Guardiola, even though there was no bad blood and just something.
Did you see a difference there as well then between the 2 top managers now, Pep and Klopp? I've counted like 14,000 hugs now. That's just in the last game. And that's the man management seems to be slightly different between the 2 of them.
We don't need a hug, do we, from the manager?
Not me.
No. But, you know, as players, you do want some kind of recognition all the time. And when your manager recognises what you've done in a particular game or as a team, you know, recognises that, it does give us something as players, and it does create some kind of a connection. I mean, we had it, Guardiola had it in abundance as well in Barcelona. Maybe this season he just hasn't had as many opportunities to hug his players. I don't know. Lost a few more games, so don't think, but it definitely helps. It creates an atmosphere, it creates a chemistry within the group, whether it's a hug or a high five or just recognition of what you do.
All the players want that love, you know, and that love can come in different ways. You know, Klopp likes to give hugs. I don't know how I would feel, you know, with I would have rather give him a high five and you know, but it's nice to see. It's nice to see, but then also the generation now is changing as well. Then you know, and our generation, you know, it was not really the thing to do.
But between players as well, I've noticed like the absolute iconic moment when Roy Keane and Patrick Vieira are in the tunnel. Both teams they just can't stand each other.
Well, it sounds, doesn't it? And it looks like it's already kicked off before they've got on the pitch. Let's go. Leave it in here.
Yesterday, I'm watching Man United against the Wolves. Bruno Fernandes, he's Rui Patricio, hey, how you doing? Everyone's hugging each other. Is that a big change you've noticed?
Probably. There is a change there. In yesterday's game, it's probably because they're Portuguese or they know each other from the national team or whatever. But when you speak of that moment of Roy Keane and Patrick Vieira, you could sense the hatred just watching it on television.
But did Roy Keane like somebody, you know? did he ever like somebody, you know? So Roy was on a mission against everybody, you know.
And probably because they were the two top teams. Yeah. Manchester United had the upper hand for a good few years, and then Arsenal came in and sort of took their crown away, and it started a rivalry. Yeah. That with if you add on a few bad tackles and a few nasty challenges, probably something was brewing there.
Time, unfortunately, is against us. So just as we wrap things up tonight, I mean, you guys, you're both Chelsea legends. A lot of people have come here tonight to hear your tales from your time at Chelsea. When you look back at that time in your life, how do you look back on it? I mean, I guess it's quite a tricky question, but how do you reflect on it?
No, I love it. I think in my whole career that was the 4 best years of my career. Don't get me wrong, I had a good time at Leeds and Atletico as well, but I think at Chelsea I just knew more, I understood more. At Leeds and Atletico I was green, if you understand what I mean. And even when I go back, you know, I'm always welcomed, and sometimes I park my car in the garage there, and I take a taxi further, or I take the underground with my daughter and go into town. And when I walk past the wall where all the pictures are, my picture is there, and to walk past it does give you a warm feeling, you know. So yeah, I look back really proud and you know, really happy.
Eidur, similar feelings, I would imagine.
Yeah, without a doubt. I absolutely loved my time there, and I hated leaving, and I wish I'd never left. But you know, situations come up in your career, and you have to make big decisions. Funnily enough, the year after I left Chelsea, or even the next window,
they came back for you.
Well, if they wouldn't have gotten Anelka, they would have wanted to sign me again, which would have been a huge mistake anyway. So. But it was just great. I went there I was 22-year-old, and I sort of grew up there, I matured there, and being part of the history of the club, having memories of lifting the Premier League title, it's probably, and I say this with full respect, it's probably the one regret that we had in our time at Chelsea, that we didn't lift the trophy.
Yeah, we lost the FA Cup, but I don't think that we had the mentality as a group. We had the talent, but we didn't have the mentality as a group to win something. And as you said, when Mourinho came in, you knew straight away that you're going to win, or you had a big chance.
Yeah.
We never had that. Really.
Plus the fact that
we never thought that.
When Jose came, you know, John Terry's turned 25, probably. Lamp's 26, or 24, 25, 26. We were all at an age where we'd matured a lot as players, and we'd learned so much. So the timing of Mourinho coming in was just perfect. It all just clicked. And just having those memories, looking at those games, they're almost surreal at times. It feels, you know, never forget it, but it's almost like it never happened. I'm not going to cry.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a good way to end things. Unfortunately, we are out of time. We could honestly talk to you for days and days. It really has been a pleasure to have your company tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, show your appreciation for Eidur Gudjohnsen and Jimmy Floyd. Dharmesh Chef as well. Dharmesh, the countdown to the summer is now on.
Only about 130 days until we go again.
Yeah, and he does have a countdown. I've seen it on his clock. But yeah, that is it for this live episode of the Transfer Talk podcast. Thank you to all of you guys for joining us here tonight as well, our Sky VIP customers. I hope you've had a good night, enjoyed the tales that have been told here from Eidur and from Jimmy. This episode of the podcast will actually be available to download tomorrow if you want to listen back. It's also going to be on YouTube if you want to watch it back. And as I said, the Transfer Talk podcast, it will return in the summer. But thanks, guys. Get home safe. We'll see you soon.